Welcome back to Gospel First. Today we're in Matthew chapter 25, and Jesus is going to make faith very real. Not as a label, not as a mood, but as a life that shows up with oil in the lamp and mercy in the hands. Now, this chapter isn't meant to make tender hearts anxious. It's meant to form steady hearts, ready, responsible, and quietly loving when no one is watching. So as you listen today, hold one simple question. What kind of faith is Jesus forming in me? So let's begin. In Matthew 25, verses 1 to 13, Jesus begins by saying in verse 1, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 are wise, and 5 are foolish," in Matthew 2. The difference is not intention. All want to meet the bridegroom. The difference is preparation. In verse 3, they that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. In verse 5, it says, "When the bridegroom delays, all grow tired. But only some are ready when the moment comes." In verse 13, Jesus concludes, "Watch therefore, for ye know not neither the day nor the hour." Watching here does not mean anxiety. It means quiet readiness. So the principle here is spiritual readiness is formed long before the moment of testing. Now in Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 to 30, Jesus tells another story. In verse 15, a master entrusts his servants with talents, to one with 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, each according to ability. In verses 16 to 17, the first 2 invest and grow what they've been given. The verses 18, the third one hides his talents. Now when the master returns, he says to the faithful servants, in verse 21, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." Then in verse 26, "But to the one who hid his gift, thou wicked and slothful servant." This is not about comparison. It is about faithful use of what we've been given. Fear buried potential. Trust allows growth. So here's something to think about. What has God entrusted to me? Time, influence, compassion, skill? And am I using it or hiding it out of fear? Now in Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 40, Jesus speaks more plainly than anywhere else. He describes the Son of Man separating people as a shepherd separates sheep and goats in verse 32. And then in verses 35 to 36, to some he says, "I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat, naked, and ye clothed me." Now the people here were surprised. In verse 37, he said, "Lord, when saw we thee?" Jesus answers, "Inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me." That's in verse 40. Now this is breathtaking. Jesus identifies himself with the hungry, the sick, the lonely, the imprisoned. Faith shows up as love in action. The principle here is love for Christ is revealed by love for people, especially the overlooked. Next, in Matthew chapter 25, verses 41 to 46, Jesus also speaks of those who did not act, not because they were cruel, but because they were indifferent. He says in verse 42, "I was an hungered, and ye gave me no meat." In verse 44, they ask the same question, "Lord, when saw we thee?" And Jesus answers in verse 45, "Inasmuch as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it not to me." Now, this is not about perfection. It is about attention. Love notices. So let's think about this. Matthew chapter 25 reminds us faith is not only what we believe, it's how we prepare, how we steward, and how we love. So if today you wonder whether your small acts matter, remember this. Jesus sees oil quietly stored. He sees talents faithfully used, and he sees kindness offered to those others pass by. And when love is given there, he says, "You did it unto me." So that's it for another day. Thank you again for staying faithful to the journey. May the Spirit continue to fill your heart and draw you closer to Jesus Christ. And if your heart once again feels even a little gentle nudge, I invite you to subscribe and share so that we can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ together. And I'll see you tomorrow as we continue walking with Matthew in Matthew chapter 26. Until then, God bless.